Welcome everybody! Souldin of the Grin brothers here, and E3 is almost upon us. In fact, at the time of uploading this video, E3 is probably already upon us. In fact, some things will probably have already leaked from E3 2021, because things always end up leaking out of E3 just before E3 happens. It's inevitable. Some of it actually is intentionally announced, usually by like the smaller companies wanting to get their announcements out there before they get drowned out by all the bigger company stuff, and sometimes bigger companies have little things to reveal, and sometimes they just want to tease what's at their actual thing by announcing it ahead of schedule, but they're not actually showing off until the actual event, where it's like, isn't the big thing you want to do in the actually having it revealed along with the announcement? It's all weird. It's weird. And yet every year I get super excited for E3, and last year there was no E3, which is was a real shame, real bummer, and made video game purchases a real nightmare to try to plan out, because E3, people criticize E3, but honestly I feel it's one of the best ways to do game announcements, because it all gets announced at a singular location, and whilst the release dates can change and such, at least gives you a good sort of rough expectation of from numerous companies of what games are coming out, and so I can plan ahead and give a rough idea of what games I want to purchase throughout the year. And on that note, I also, with E3, have certain hopes for what games could be announced, stuff in regards to E3, so that I can then later make my own sort of purchases of the games I hope for. I'm not sure where I'm going with this. Not sure what I'm doing for this video. I know for the actual E3 video itself, because I'll be doing it as I did, I can't remember which year I did. I think I did it last year, where I had 3 E3 related videos: the hopes video or expectation video, the actual reaction video, although it would only be covering the 2 bigger ones, aka Microsoft and Nintendo, and then a third video just to sum up my thoughts and talk about games that didn't get that much spotlight, such as Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, which was actually my highlight of E3 2019, because there wasn't an E3 2020. Yeah, that was again really weird, really sad. Anyways, so E3 21 hopes this is, and for the artwork background, I'll be having an artwork of Nanka and a OC known as Mary by Fluffy Queens, and the OC Mary is actually her OC. I've got permission, of course, and go check out their DeviantArt and various other things, links below and all that. So yeah, E3 2021 hopes, that's what this video is. At E3 this year, there will be Nintendo, Microsoft, Capcom, Ubisoft, Warner Bros. Interactive, Square Enix, Sega, Bandai Namco, and several other companies. No Sony again this year from what I heard, although I hear they'll be announcing stuff roughly around the time of that, maybe to try to steal some thunder. And Konami was originally scheduled to attend, but said they ended up having to pull out due to various matters, and saying they'll make some announcements at a later date, which to me is actually a bit of a shame, because I actually have quite a few hopes with Konami. What with their purchase of Hudson and some of their own IPs, that's actually a lot that Konami could do that I would quite enjoy, even if it's just stuff like more Konami collections. I'd love a Konami collection of like the Ninja Goemon series, particularly if it included both the N64 games. I think there was actually 3 N64 games, actually. I think there was like a third one that was Japan only. Bloody Roar collection would be pretty cool. I only ever played Bloody Roar on the GameCube, but I really enjoyed that, so being able to play the originals, like PlayStation outings of it, would be really nice. More love for Bomberman. Bomberman gets plenty of love. There's lots of Konami could do just from releasing their back catalogue as compilations would be quite nice. So, a bit of a shame they're not actually attending. And, 1 or 2 of their IPs still get some love. Bomberman still gets quite a lot of love with the Super Bomberman R series and, with online recently. I'm still waiting for Bomber Girl to be released overseas. It would be interesting, even if it was like a free-to-play, just replicate the arcade experience, but on console sort of thing. You pay for basically your yen/pennies in to play around. So let's see. I made a list of rough things I hoped for, and I figured I'll just go down this list and talk about them. Some of them aren't even based off companies that are there. Most of them are based off companies that are actually there. So Sega are apparently the ones behind publishing Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Hinokami Kepputan, which I did not know. For those who don't know, Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Hinokami Kepputan is a game based off Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, being made by CyberConnect 2, the people behind the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm games. And this Demon Slayer game, aka Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Hinokami Kepputan, is basically Naruto Storm, sort of spiritual successor, but of Demon Slayer characters, and that's really cool. And I'm hoping for more stuff to be revealed, because so far we've only had information based off of various the versus mode and some of the characters revealed for it. But aside from Nezuko, obviously, all the characters have been the sort of demon slayers, but I'm hoping for playable demon characters. I'd like to be able to recite poetry as I play drums to cause an opponent to die. Maybe would be pretty fun. And, a showcasing of the campaign, sort of like, is there anything more intricate to it than just, the one-on-one fights? CyberConnect 2 do like their QuickTime events. They were also behind Azura's Wrath, so they really like sort of like QuickTime and really flashy cinematics. And Demon Slayer anime looks amazing, but I'm pretty sure CyberConnect 2 could take the animation to an even higher level, because CyberConnect 2s are just beautiful with the visuals. Let's see, other things. Digimon Survive, I hope to see a bit more of that, as well as a release date for it. I believe it got pushed back twice now. And it's not so much for me, because I believe it's an SRBG, Fire Emblem-esque sort of turn-based RPG with permadeath, and I'm not good at that sort of thing. But Rafi's a big Digimon fan, and particularly of the Digimon video games as of late. He's played like Digimon Cyber Sleuth like 4 times now. As in played through it all. Well, he's currently playing through it again. Pretty sure he's going to stream it at some point as well. I would imagine he would. But yeah, so Digimon Survive is a good potential birthday or Christmas present for him for some year, depending on when it releases. If he doesn't just instantly go and buy it himself, it might be a hard one to call for that one. Let's see. I forgot that Phantom Breaker Omnia was actually a thing, and it's Omnia, which is a fun game. It's always kind of caught my interest, but kept being like Japan only or stuck in the PlayStation systems. Apparently it's set for like all the consoles, Nintendo Switch and Xbox systems, and if there's not too much competition at the time it comes out, I wouldn't mind finally getting around to play that. It's always been one that's caught my eye. And I believe you can get the beat 'em up spin-off they made. They made a chibi beat 'em up spin-off, and you can get that on the Xbox systems. So I'd actually quite like to, finally try out Phantom Breaker Omnia, because there's always one that's, caught my attention. So having some of that revealed would be more information on that sort of thing. Likewise, always been curious about the Pocky and Rocky series, and apparently Natsume are doing a Pocky and Rocky reshrine, they're calling it, basically a remake of the first game, I believe. So yeah, hearing a bit more about that, seeing that get shown off at some of the events would be pretty cool as well. Even if it's just as a smaller part, as part of a sizzle reel. Well, nice to get some spotlight in these sort of games. Again, in E3 2019, my big game of the year was Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, which barely had any attention sort of shown of it in the actual live streams. That was like caught on Silicon Era, sort of like showing off the trailer that got released for it around the time of E3 and on the E3 show floor, but it wasn't actually part of anyone's video presentations, which is a shame, because Sakuna of Rice and Ruin was an absolutely amazing game. Let's see, I'd like more info on Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. It's funny that I say this, because on the exact day I'm recording this, because I've got a lot of work coming up, so I figured I'd record this now, before things start to get crazy. They announced a release day of November for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond / Shining Pearl, which are like, no duh, they were pretty obvious release dates. But yeah, I'm hoping to hear more about, what things have stayed true, what things have changed, because, there will have to be changes, because there's no second screen, and a lot of other stuff is altered over time. So I'm curious to learn a bit more about that, how much of the platinum elements have been reincorporated, what sort of like little elements have they been tweaked and such. And, hopes that they haven't altered haven't brought some of the worst elements that have been introduced since then in Pokemon series, some of the weaker elements, such as the always-on EXP share and such. So I'm really curious about that. And I used a really poor pen for this next one, but this next thing is actually something I've been I think I mentioned it in my hopes for like Nintendo Directs and such. It's been a pretty consistent hope, but apparently this year is the anniversaries of both Sonic and Project Zero are both got anniversaries. No, Project Zero recently got a pachinko machine, but that's not exactly the best way to celebrate it. So I'm basically wanting actual games to celebrate Sonic Anniversary and Project Zero Anniversary, even if they're re-releases. In fact, in a case, I actually would prefer re-releases. Project Zero in particular, I'd love a ports of 1, 2, 3, and a translated port of 4 available on the Nintendo Switch, because now that Nintendo co-owns the Project Zero IP, there's a lot of game entries of the series that have never actually been on Nintendo systems. So it'd be cool for people who got into Project Zero, be it the Project Zero 2 on the remake on the Wii, or Project Zero 5, Maiden of Blackwater. It's known as Fail Frame for Americans, which is actually a better name for it than Project Zero, yet Project Zero is more representative of the Japanese name, which is Zero. Yet Fail Frame, which is nothing like Zero, or Project Zero, is somehow the better name for the series, and makes the whole photo taking aspect much more apparent, and is actually a mechanic in the game and everything. So really funny that. The American complete mistranslation is actually spot on, as in like a perfect sort of choice for it. Yeah, I'd love to be able to play the older games on Nintendo hardware, on the Nintendo Switch and such. And the Sonic Anniversary, like, a cool new Sonic game, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But I mean, admittedly, I wasn't. Sonic Forces was okay. I think there were aspects that could certainly have been polished more. The sort of constant rumor seems to be like either a Sonic Adventure 3 or a Sonic Adventure remake. And I absolutely love Sonic Adventure. It's my third favorite video game of all time. We also have a Grin Brothers playthrough of it. Go check that out. So I would be absolutely ecstatic if it's just a Sonic Adventure remake. Heck, you could just remaster it, like just even more modern ports of it. I'd be perfectly fine with that sort of thing. Tighten up the controls a little bit here and there, but maybe expand the Chow Garden. I just absolutely love Sonic Adventure. So I mean, a Sonic Adventure 3 would certainly be nice, but it's the worry of would they be able to nail a Sonic Adventure 3? Would they be able to return to adventure gameplay style and get it spot on? But yeah, I'm hoping for even if it doesn't come out this year, it's weird if it doesn't, but I'd like to at least get these announcements. That's kind of what E3 is there. It's the best way to announce the stuff because everyone's got its eyes on it, sort of thing. Fable reboot gameplay. I know I may be hoping for a bit much because I'm pretty sure the Fable reboot is a long ways out, but I would like to see even a brief little bit of gameplay, even a minute length of gameplay, or at least some details of the story of it, sort of thing. That would be nice. Even nice would be a release date, or yeah, you don't even need to show much of the gameplay, such if you give me a release date, so to back up the theories that it's probably not at best a late 2022 or even late 2023 sort of game. It seemed pretty early on from the initial reveal of it, but I absolutely love Fable, and the sort of Fable reveal that it's getting a reboot was like the final nail to convince me to purchase a Xbox Series X, knowing that was coming. Which, admittedly, purchasing an Xbox One was also the final thing to convince me was Fable Legends, and then that got cancelled. I still have a fantastic Fable Legends art book for a game that doesn't exist. It depresses me. You can blame Rafi on that. He got me for that, knowing it depressed me. Okay, the only thing Ubisoft related here, UbiArt game. A Child of Light 2 maybe, although I believe it actually did get kind of a Child of Light 2, but it was like in the form of a novel released by one of the people. But yeah, more Child of Light stuff, or just more by the team behind Child of Light. I would love. I've actually got Child of Light recently on the Switch, as well as that World War One game sort of thing. Not tried them out on the Switch yet, but I've got them now and on the system. And it's pretty neat having a physical version of Child of Light. And I was curious about the other game as well, because it seemed pretty interesting. But that's basically the only thing I can hope for with Ubisoft. Like, nothing else there is really interesting me as of late. Not for quite a long while has Ubisoft really, caught my attention. There's been a few games which like, ooh, ah. I mean, Phoenix Immortals Rising looked fun from a gameplay standpoint, but it was an open world game aping Breath of the Wild, and I'm not a fan of open world or Breath of the Wild, so yeah, not doing anything for me. Moving away from that's really the only Ubisoft thing I've got. New HAL Laboratory game. My normal expectation, given they've been commenting a lot recently on wanting to take Kirby into a newer direction or change things up, is that HAL Laboratory are probably working on a new Kirby game. But I'd also be quite happy if HAL Laboratory were to actually make a big, console release of something different. I believe Box Boy, I'm not sure if it was overseas, but I know Box Boy did get a physical collection of all three of its games in Japan, I believe. I'm not sure if it came out overseas as well, but on the 3DS it did. But, the HAL Laboratories, when they say, oh, we have finally been making quite a few new IPs, but they've all been like digital-only games, smaller project sort of things, and then they later get bundled up as collections and release sort of thing. But yeah, I'd like new HAL game. If it's a new Kirby game, I'd be happy with that. I plan to phone my nephew up straight away to tell him about it, because I know he loves Kirby games. And it would be nice to have a new Kirby game to play along with him. Although, of course, he's, 6, so there's been so many Kirby games he hasn't played before, so it's been nice taking him back through them. We've been playing through Kirby's Adventure Wii. Not completed it yet, but he likes to play it every time he comes round. He's like, oh, can we play the Kirby game? Yep. So yeah, but if it's a new Kirby game, I'd like to see what they're meaning about the new direction. A lot of people are saying they're finally going to take a step into the third direction. I don't mind, so long as they don't try to make it open world. I think a 3D Kirby game could work pretty well if they go in more of a Super Mario 3D World direction. I think the camera angle and such of that would work a lot better than trying to make it, explore everywhere sort of thing, like 64 or Odyssey sort of thing. I'd much rather, you know, but then again, that's my taste. I'd much prefer a linear level sort of thing. Multiple pathways, perhaps, but, you know, endpoint sort of thing. But yeah, something how related is the thing. On the topic of Nintendo, what has Retro been doing? I'd like to know that. I want to know what Retro's been doing in the span between when they released Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze in, was it 2014 or 2015? I think it's 2014, early 2014. I want to know what they've been doing since then, since now, because the only thing they released since then that was the Tropical Freeze on the Nintendo Switch re-release with Funky Kong mode. Like, what else? What else have they doing? Like, it'd be nice to know what they've been assisting on, sort of thing. I'm not, you know, super huge into, like, I mean, you know, for instance, I'm not big on the Metroid Prime series, but so I know they're now working on that. But what was they working in the meantime? I really want to actually just know that. It's not even a game announcement. I want to know what they've been doing. It's just one of those mysteries. Let's see. Warner Brothers. The only thing Warner Brothers Interactive related here, I want to see a new game from them with the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor included. It doesn't need to be Lord of the Rings related at all. Just make a new game. Could be a new IP or another license, but with the Nemesis system. It is one of the best video game systems and sort of mechanics of ideas, sort of things ever implemented. And it's only been like, you know, what, 2 games sort of thing? Come on, use that and more. I mean, for all I know, that could be an element in the upcoming Suicide Squad or Gotham Knights sort of games, or which I believe are being published by Warner Brothers sort of thing. You know, I would really like it if that Nemesis system could thrive in another IP in particular. Because whilst I enjoyed Shadow of Mordor, and I like quite the aesthetics of Lord of the Rings, it's kind of boring when all the enemies of the kind of Uruk sort of things all kind of look a bit samey. I mean, you get some variation, but, you know, it'd be much better with a more diverse cast of enemies sort of things, or even, like, different armies altogether who could even end up more, you know, antagonizing each other more often sort of thing. There's a lot more that I feel could be done with the Nemesis system without the constraints of the Lord of the Rings IPs. You know, as much as that also gave it some flavor and appeal to it. The Nemesis system alone, I feel, is a strong enough mechanic to stand on its own in another game. Okay, so quick run through of other stuff. I'd like to see Bright Memory Infinite. It still hasn't come out yet. They originally were saying spring 2021, and we still haven't got Bright Memory Infinite out. And Bright Memory was actually basically my launch game for along with Yakuza Lucky Dragon. Bright Memory was my launch game for the Xbox Series X, and of course we got a playthrough of that. Was the first Xbox Series X recorded playthrough, and I had a lot of fun with it. And I'm really looking forward to Bright Memory Infinite, even though first-person shooters aren't really usually my cup of tea. I had quite a lot of fun with it. So the fact that it hasn't actually come out yet really makes me wonder how's its development going. Of course, you know, certain things could have delayed it sort of thing. But I'd like to get some, you know, love at the Microsoft E3 presentation, and perhaps even a confirmed release date for when it now is actually coming out. Oh, I guess there is another thing Warner Bros. Related. I'm somewhat curious about Hogwarts Legacy. Like to see a bit more about that. I think in future, I'm not sure if I'd get you know, when it releases, but I think in future it could make for a great Souldin short start whenever I decide to return that series. I mean, Nanka would fit, as a witch, would fit in quite well with the Hogwarts concept sort of thing. So I'd like to see more of that. The Gunk kind of has my interest. I'd like to see a bit more of that, see if it could tempt me sort of thing. Avowed is one of those games I think is a bit far off, but is one I'm quite like the look of, and I quite like the idea of I'm hoping kind of a sort of Elder Scrolls sort of thing, but with the humor associated with like Fallout, which, you know, if Obsidian takes the Outer Worlds sort of humor sort of thing and applies it to their fantasy setting as well, I think I would actually really like that sort of thing. I love the humorous styles like the sort of Fallout world, but I'm not a fan of the setting, whereas I love the fantasy setting of, you know, the sort of Elder Scrolls games, but I'm not a big fan of the sort of tone it usually goes with sort of thing. And I mean, ultimately, the gameplay could certainly do with a lot of improvements, as Rafi noted with how in a few of his videos lately, the Elder Scrolls games aren't really known for great gameplay. It's actually Elder Scrolls Online apparently significantly improved it in his opinion. I'll have a link to that Rafan Presents as well. But yeah, also kind of curious about State of Decay 3. I'd like to see a little bit more of that, perhaps. Let's see, more stuff. Well, there was a Capcom leak, but the one game from the Capcom leak that kind of caught my attention was Power Stone Remake, but I somewhat doubt we're going to hear anything about that, given the Capcom leak suggested it wasn't going to be scheduled until 2024. Still, Power Stone Remake being a thing, I would love to see. So that's the one thing from Capcom that could really get me excited off the top of my head. Also, on the topic of remakes, House of the Dead is getting a remake, so some more of that being shown off. There's been rumours that it's coming out for Nintendo Switch, but there's been rumours that it's gonna later down the line get Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 releases, so it'd be nice to get that sort of confirmed and such. Some indie games. Astria Ascending was a pretty cool game looking at sort of turn-based RPG made from a lot of ex-Square Enix developers, so it'd be really nice to see more of that, perhaps. Little Witch in the Woods was a cute little thing. I somewhat doubt it's going to get any attention at E3 outside of a sizzle reel, but hey, it'd be nice to see a bit more of that, get some more confirmation of what you do and such. And, wow, really high hopes. I don't think Koei Tecmo is involved in E3 at all this year, but I'd like something Dead or Alive. I'd like to prove that Dead or Alive isn't dead after Dead or Alive 6. Be it Dead or Alive 6 Ultimate or, Dead or Alive reboot. I really do think it could probably do with a reboot. Or just, proof that it isn't dead. There was that Koei Tecmo All-Stars game. I'd quite like if that got a revival. Perhaps a Nintendo Switch release with a Project Zero character in it. Would be pretty darn cool. Yeah, just confirmation that Dead or Alive is actually going to be somewhat alive. Which it's more the dead part at the moment. Which is a real shame because I love the mechanics of it, sort of thing. Wasn't a fan of the newer stuff they implemented in Dead or Alive 6. The fact that not all fighting games need meters. There's this weird obsession with it, but I've ranted about that long enough. But yeah, those are generally my sort of hopes in E3. I'm really looking forward to E3, particularly after the absence of last year. I think E3 2019 and 2018, I think they weren't exactly the most thrilling of E3s for me. Yeah, I have particularly high hopes now, sort of thing. Even though there's nothing specific, it's just like I want to actually get to the atmosphere of just, getting hyped about new games being announced or just release dates being announced, sort of thing. So it's not even so much I want things specifically appealing to me. I just want to embrace that fervor and excitement of game announcements once again. Just have all that information flooding all at once, sort of thing, instead of like released in like drip feeds sort of throughout the year, sort of thing. The flood of information will excite me far more. But, yeah, those are just some of my rambling hopes for E3. This is a very casual video, as you might be able to tell. Is it tea time? Nah, I guess it's more of an E3 time. Oh, that was what I called the sort of sub-series. E3 time. Well, kind of weird. It's going to be, you'll have seen the title of it is E3 time throughout this entire thing, so. Well, E3 2021 time, to be specific. In any case, what are your hopes for E3? What are you looking forward to E3? What are you hoping to see and all that sort of stuff? Is anything that I've spoken about in this video something that you also are looking forward to E3 or hoping for? Feel free to tell me in the comments below. I do read them and I do love replying to them. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to E3, and this should be released on, I think, probably Friday. Yeah, the very day E3 starting. This will probably pop up. So, yeah. So some E3 announcements will already be underway at the time of this upload, and I look forward to reacting to the Nintendo and Microsoft presentations if I manage to get that all set up. Hopefully, do so. Okay, hope you enjoy E3 like I hope to. Cheerio.